Be'ezah Hashem Yisbarach, we begin a new Masechta Sanhedrin, a very geschmacke, unique Masechta. This is actually the Masechta that most years, so they say, the Rebbe used to take for the Chalukas Hashas and Yutes Kislev was Masechta Sanhedrin. It's a Masechta that also famously speaks about Mashiach. The last Perek of the Masechta, known as Perek Chelek, discusses all the different things that are related to Yemais Mashiach and Elam Haba. But most of the Masechta, as the name of the Masechta tells us, Sanhedrin, will tell us the halachas about the Beit Din. And there's different Beit Dins actually. There's the Beit Din that's called the Sanhedrin of 71, that was in the Lishkas HaGazis in the Beis HaMikdash. There's a Beit Din of 23 that was supposed to be in every city in Eretz Yisrael. Then there's a Beit Din of 3. This is what the Mishnah here will begin with, the different Beit Dins. Now the name of the Masechta, Sanhedrin, what does the word Sanhedrin mean? So in some places it says that Sanhedrin in Aramaic or maybe in Greek means a Beit Din. In other places it says, I think the Bar Tanura here says that Sanhedrin is a combination of Saina Hadras Panim. A person that's a judge on a Sanhedrin in a court has to be someone that hates anybody that tries to find favor in his eyes, can't accept any kind of bribery, no favor, I think others say Sanhedrin is Saina Deiren. He hates any gifts, he doesn't accept any bribery. That's the basis to be a part of a Beit Din, and that's actually the name Sanhedrin, the name of the Masechta. Yeah, okay, so this Masechta will discuss not only halachas regarding Beit Din, also a lot of halachas regarding Eidos, testimony, which has to be accepted by the Beit Din to analyze the Chakiru Drisha regarding the Eidim. When you interrogate the Eidim, is all done by the Beit Din. So therefore a lot of halachas of Eidos are in this Masechta as well. Then also many different halachas of Einshim, which come from the Beit Din. The punishments that the Torah speaks about, especially the Daled Mises that it says in the Torah, is also in this Masechta. Yeah, it's a very geschmack Masechta. Taisus here says that the reason why Masechta Sanhedrin comes here after Baba Kama, Baba Metzia, Baba Basra is because after the Gemara or the Mishnah went through all of the halachas regarding Dinei Mominis, so now what do you do after you know all of this? You have to go to the Beit Din to actually paskin, one way or another. So after we know all the halachas, it begins with the Beit Din. Which Beit Din do you go to in order to get these halachas actually paskind? Sagt the Heilige Mishnah, Dinei Mominis, to paskin halachas regarding money matters, b'shloisha. You go to a Beit Din of 3. The Gemara will explain exactly from where we know Dafka 3 and what Dinei Mominis exactly refers to. Gzeilois v'chavalois, a case of a person that is stealing. And Rashi says this could be a case where someone gave you a pakadon, a deposit, and you deny it and you steal it for yourself. Or a simple case of a person that's a thief, that's stealing from his friend. But Rashi interestingly clarifies and says, in a case where you borrowed money and then you deny the loan and you don't pay it, that's not included in what we're talking about here. There's a discussion in Mefarshim about it. Rashi says that the money that you borrow is lohitzah nitna, that's given for you to spend. So the fact that you're not returning it, it's not included in this concept of gzeila when you're stealing someone else's money. V'chavalois, a person that injures his friend, in such a case, the Gemara in Baba Kama says that you have to pay 5 different payments, depends on what the injury included in it. B'shloisha, this is also to be judged by a Beit Din of 3. Nezek, the halachas of paying for damages. This is in a case of a shoyer hamuad, when you have an ox that gores that has to pay full payment, or v'chatzi nezek, in a case where you only are paying half of the damages, in a case when it's the first 3 times when you only pay half, a tam, or tashlume kefil, when you're paying double, in a case of geneva, when you steal from someone. So the pasuk says that you pay kefil, this is a knas, and v'tashlume arba v'chamisha, and also paying 4 or 5 times the amount of what you stole, which is in a case where a person stole an ox or a lamb, and he either slaughtered it or he sold it to someone else, which is what's called tvicha or mechira, also discussed by Riches in the Gemara and Baba Kama. So these are also things that are judged b'shloisha in a Beit Din of 3. Ha'oines v'hamefate, a case of an oines, a person that seduced a girl, not seduced actually. Oines is one who rapes and does it again by force. We hear the Torah says that he has to pay 50 coins, and v'hamefate, the mefate means when he seduces her into this. Or v'hamaitzi shemra, a case of a person that got married, and then he comes back to the father and he says that your daughter was not a besula, she's not a virgin. And he's bringing Eidim that are testifying that at the time of Edison, when they got married, the first stage of marriage, but after that, she was mizana with someone else. So bishloisha. So, and now, if it turns out that what the person said was a lie, so then he has to pay a knas of 100 kesef actually to the father. So these are also cases that have to be judged by a Beit Din of 3. Divrei Rab Meir. This is Rab Meir's opinion. The Chachamim Oimrim, on the last detail regarding the Moitzi Shemra, the Chachamim say Moitzi Shemra be'esrim v'shloisha. The case of Moitzi Shemra has to be judged by a Beit Din of 23. And the reason for this is because it's possible that this case could come down to a question of that this person will be punishable by misa, death. Because if it turns out that what this person said is actually true, that she was mizana after she was already an Eishes Ish, then she'll be chayiv misa. So therefore, for misa you need a Beit Din of 23. Makkais, any time Beit Din is judging a person regarding whether he's chayiv in the punishment of malchus, the 39 malchus, b'shloisha. You have to have a Beit Din of 3 for this. Mishum Rabbi Shmuel, in the name of Rabbi Shmuel, was said be'esrim v'shloisha. Malchus is also a punishment that has to have, similar to misa, a Beit Din of 23. Ibura Chaydesh, in order to come and establish that the month you should add a date to it, that it shouldn't be a month of 29, but a month of 30 days, b'shloisha. This is with a Beit Din of 3. Ibur Hashana, in order to be ma'aber the year, that it'll be a Ibur Yar. It should be a leap year with an added month, b'shloisha, also with a Beit Din of 3. Divrei Rab Meir. That's according to Rab Meir. Rab Shimon Gamliel says, b'shloisha maschilin, that when it comes to the Ibur of a year, so then you begin the discussion about this with a Beit Din of 3. Ubechamisha neisen v'neisnin, and then with 5 you continue the discussion about this subject, and v'goymirin b'shiva, and then it has to be concluded with a Beit Din of 7. V'em gomru b'gimel, if it was concluded with a Beit Din of 3, mu'uberes, it will be an ibiyar even with a Beit Din of 3. In the Gemara and a Brayso, the Gemara will explain exactly the details of the opinion of Rab Shimon Gamliel. Smicha zekenim. So according to Rashi, smicha zekenim means that when there's a carbon which is called a par helam davar shel tzibur, when the Beit Din paskin something, and because of this psak which was wrong, everybody in the tzibur did an aveda, so then you have to bring a carbon from the Beit Din, which is a helam davar for the tzibur, that they didn't know because of this psak din of the Beit Din. So this halach of smicha zekenim is, and also, now this is Rashi's pshat. The Rambam actually though says that smicha zekenim refers to smicha. When you give smicha to be masmich someone else, to give him the authority to be able to paskin, to be in a Beit Din and so on. Varifa sagola, the halacha of the egla arufa is when a person is found dead, and you have to measure to see from which city the person came from, the closest city, in order to know from which city you have to bring the egla arufa, b'shloisha. So both of these are with 3. Divrei Rab Shimon. That's the opinion of Rab Shimon. Rabbi Yehuda says b'chamisha, that egla arufa has to be with 5. Also learned out from Sukkim. Hachalitza. When you do chalitza, which is by a woman that her husband died without children, and then you can either do yibum or chalitza. So the chalitza is done with 3, or bahamiyunin, another case which is a girl that got married when she's a katana, and it's not her father that marry her off. The father, minat Torah, could marry off the daughter. But if the father passed away, so then either the mother or the brothers could marry her off. But then she's only married until she becomes a gedayla, until she becomes bas mitzvah. But then at that time, she could be memayin. She could refuse the marriage, and then she's not married anymore. Now this miyun is also b'shloisha, should be done with 3 in a Beit Din of 3. And Rashi says regarding the miyun, the reason why it should be done with 3 is because called the tikkun rabbanon ken da'iraisa tikkun. Chachamim instituted that miyun should be done similar the way it's done minat Torah. What is it similar to minat Torah? So it refers to chalitza, just like chalitza minat Torah has to be with 3. So miyun has to also be with 3. So it's interesting. We compare miyun to chalitza, even though miyun is sort of similar to a get. By a get, you don't need a Beit Din at all. You can give a get technically without any Beit Din, but miyun is compared to chalitza that it should be done with 3.
Chassid, no?
Huh?
You married over the kids.
To what?
To get married, no? Miyun.
Miyun is the refusal of the marriage, when she becomes a gedayla and she wants to refuse the marriage. Okay, netarevai. In a case where you have the netarevai, this is a new tree on the 4th year. What are you supposed to do with the produce? You have to bring it to Yerushalayim. And if you're not bringing the produce itself to Yerushalayim, so then you have to evaluate its value, and then you exchange it for money and you bring to Yerushalayim. So in order to evaluate it, in a case where the value is not clear, if the price, the market price for it is clear, you don't have to evaluate it. But in a case where these fruits got rotten, or it's a case where the value of the shar shebeshuk, Rashi says, is not clear because of that situation that fruits got rotten, so then you have to have a beis din to evaluate this properly. And the same with Ma'aser Sheni. Ma'aser Sheni is also the fruits that have to be brought to Yerushalayim, but you could evaluate them and redeem them and bring the money. She'ein dam of Yidduin, so if it's not known what the price is and you have to evaluate it, b'shloisha, you have to have a beis din of 3 to evaluate this. Ha-hagdeishes, and the same also regarding hektish, one that wants to redeem something from hektish and has to be properly evaluated, b'shloisha, there's also with 3. Arochin metaltalin, the Gemara will explain, this is when a person says erki alai, or we'll see in the Gemara, this inyan of erchin is with shloisha, also with a beis din of 3. Rabbi Yehuda says, Echad mehen koyin. One of these 3 has to be a koyin, and he learns it out from the pasuk. It says there ke'erkecha koyin, so one of them has to be a koyin. Again, why?
Only by Erech.
Correct. Only by Erechin has to be a koyin. The hakarkois, when you are coming to redeem any properties that you dedicated to hektish, tisha, you're gonna have 9 people as judges for this. V'koyin, and a 10th as a koyin as well. And Adam, when it comes to a person that's coming to redeem himself from hektish, kayetze ben, the same thing, that you have to have 9 and a 10th. Now, the Gemara will explain, what does this mean, that a person is redeeming himself from hektish? What kind of a case is this talking about? Okay, but this case here, where you have a beis din of 9 and a koyin, which is the 10th, which basically means a beis din of 10, is unusual, because as we'll see soon in the Mishnah, usually every beis din is always an odd number. In order, if there's a disagreement between them, you should always have a roiv that could be on one side. But over here, this is a beis din that's shakel, that's just 10. Okay, dinei nefashais. What's the halacha when beis din is judging regarding a matter that relates to nefashais, whether a person is chayiv misa or not? Besrin v'shloisha. You need a beis din of 23. As I mentioned before, that's usually the beis din in every city of Yidden. There has to be this beis din of 23. Haroiva v'hanirva, the case of an animal that had a relation with a woman, or the other way around, an animal that had a relation with a man. Now this animal has to be put to death. So it's also be'esrim v'shloisha. So to judge this, whether you're going to put this animal to death or not, has to also be with a beis din of 23. Shenamar, because the pasuk says v'harakta es isha v'esa behema, that the isha is chayiv misa and the animal has to be put to death as well. So in the pasuk you see that the 2 are compared to each other. So you need the same beis din of 23. V'oimer, another pasuk where it speaks about when a man has a relation with a behema, v'esa behema taroigu, and at that pasuk it goes on to say, that says in the beginning of that pasuk, v'ish ashiyit nishchavte bebehema moist yumas v'esa behema taroigu. So you see that you compare the 2. Shoir haniskal, an ox that has to be stoned to death, be'esrim v'shloisha. That also has to be according to a beis din of 23. So this is the ox that gored and killed a person. So when he gores and kills a person, he has to be put to death by a beis din of 23. Shenema hashor yisokel v'gam ba'olav yumas. The shor is put to death, and the owner of this ox is also put to death. So actually, the yumas here in the pasuk does not mean put to death. If a person's ox kills someone, it means that he has to pay. But because it uses the term yuma, so we compare the 2. Just like a person, when he would be put to death, it's with a beis din of 23. The skila of the shoyr is also with a beis din of 23. Kemisas bailim kach misas ashar. We compare the 2. Now it's not only by a shor, the same as also has a ave, a wolf, a hari, a lion, a doiv, a bear, a nemer, a leopard, a bardalis, which is there's always a discussion exactly what this bardalis is. Some say it's a bobcat, or it's a cheetah, or it's a weasel, or some other. It's not clear exactly what this bardalis is. The hanachash, or a snake. All these various different kinds of wild animals or beasts that are killing a person or are dangerous to society. Misasam be'esrim v'shloisha. When you have to put them to death, it has to be by a beis din of 23. Rabbi Eliezer says, Kol hakeidim lahargan zacha. Whoever is first and comes and puts any of these wild animals to death, so he has a merit. You don't have to wait for a beis din of 23. It's a mitzvah to go and kill them, that they shouldn't harm anybody. Rabbi Kiva says, Misasan be'esrim v'shloisha, that no, you have to have dafka the Bezdin of 23 to put them to death. Okay, so we had the two kinds of Bezdin still here, 3 for money matters and things that are other things as well, and then the Bezdin of 23 for Misa and some other things as well, and then now comes the Bezdin of 71, which is the Sanhedrin, which was in the Lishkas HaGazis in the Beis HaMikdash. Ein donin, we will not judge loy es a shevet, not a case where you have to judge an entire shevet, or the majority of a shevet that all served of a desire b'mezit deliberately, and there's a chiv misa for all of them. Ve'ein moitziin lo mulchames harishus. Sorry, went down a line. V'loy es navi asheker, and not a navi that said false prophecy, and his misa, he's also chiv misa chenek, as Rashi brings here. V'lo is kohen gadol, and also not a kohen gadol when he has to be judged. Ella al pi bezdin shel shivim ve'echad. So these cases are only judged by a bezdin of 71. All these things are learned from Sukkim, as we'll see. Ve'ein moitziin l'mulchames harishus, and you don't take Klal Yisrael out to fight a war which is only a reshus, not the war to conquer Eretz Yisrael, which is a mulchames mitzvah, but a war that's a reshus, to add more territory, anything similar. El al pi bezdin shel shivim ve'echad, only by the agreement of the bezdin of 71. Ein meisifin ala ir, you can't add to the boundary of the city of Yerushalayim, or Valaha Azoris, if you want to add to the courtyard of the Beis HaMikdash, you want to expand it in size. El al pi bezdin shel shivim echad. You have to also have a bezdin of 71 for this. Ein oisin sanhedriyos l'shvatim. You can't establish the courts that there has to be for each one of the shvatim in their cities. In other words, the bezdin mentioned before, the bezdin of 23. El al pi bezdin shel shivim echad. Only according to the bezdin of 71. They're the ones that have to go out and establish the bezdin of 23 in each one of the cities. You can't establish a city to be a Irani Dachas. This is a city that most of the people in the city served of a Zara. Ela al pi bezdin shel shivim ve'echad. Also, their punishment is according to the bezdin of 71. Ein oisin Irani Dachas basfar. Well, since we mentioned Irani Dachas, the Mishnah adds that the halacha of Irani Dachas does not apply by a city that's a border city, right, by the border of Eretz Yisrael, and v'loy shalosh, and also 3 cities together cannot be established as the Irani Dachas. Aval oisin achas le'shtayim, but Irani Dachas can be for 1 city or even 2. Irani Dachas is the city where the whole city served Avodah Zarah. There's a unique punishment for the city, for everybody. Everybody is killed in the city, and they gather all their possessions in the center of the city, and it's burnt. So this, we'll see in the Gemara all the details about Irani Dachas. This is with a bezdin of 71. Sanhedrin Gedayla Haisa Shoshim Ve'echad. The Sanhedrin Gedayla, which was in the Lishkas HaGazis in the Beis HaMikdash, that's the Sanhedrin of 71. Ukitana. Then there's the Sanhedrin Kitana, which is the Sanhedrin in each city, Shal Esrim Mishloisha. That's the bezdin of 23. Now, Minayim L'Gedayla Shishal Shivim Ve'echad. From where do I know that the Sanhedrin, the bezdin of in the Beis HaMikdash is 71? The Kitana Shal Esrim Mishloisha. Oh, sorry, I went up a line again. Shanema, because the pasuk says, "Esfali shivim ish miziknei Yisrael." The Eibusha tells Moshe Rabbeinu, "Gather for me 70 people, and they will be a bezdin." This is the source of the bezdin. So they're gathering these 70 people, and Moshe al Gabeyan, and that's Moshe that's above them. So it's Moshe together with them is 71. Rabbi Yehuda says shivim, that the bezdin is only 70, not 71. Uminayin leketana. From where do we know that the Sanhedrin ketana shehishal esrim v'shleisha, that it's 23? Shenema, the pasuk says v'shaftu ha'eda, that when you're judging someone, this is when you're judging a person regarding whether he's chayiv misa or not. So that it has to be a eda, a congregation that judges, and v'hitzilo eda, and then there has to be a eda that's able to look out to find a merit for him to save him from this punishment. Eida Shefetes is one Eida that is judging, the Eida Matzeles, and another Eida congregation that's looking out to save him. Harekan Esrim, so that's 20, because the Eida is 10. What's the source that the Eida is 10? Minayin le'Eida Shehi Asara. From where do we know that Eida is 10? Shenema, because it says by the Meraglim, Ad Mosai le'Eida Hara Hazais. Until when will this bad congregation do what they're doing? And so it says here the term Eida. How many were there? There were 10, because Yatsu, Yeshua, V'Kalev. Yeshua and Kalev weren't part of the Eida of the Meraglim, so it's 10. So this is a unique thing that you learn out the whole entire concept of a Eidah, of a minyan, and the power of 10 comes from the Meraglim. Okay, so from here, there's the Sikha where the Rebbe speaks about this, in Chelik Lamed Gimel, Parshas Shlach, where the Rebbe says from here you see that these Meraglim really had a very holy kavanah. And even afterwards, even when the Pasuk describes them as Eidah Hara, the koyach of the minyan of Yidden is not the fact that you have 10 tzaddikim. As it says in other places that a tzibur, which is 10, is made up of tzaddikim, beinin, and rishayim. A Yid is, no matter if he's on a high level, no matter if he's on the opposite end of the spectrum, he's still an Eidah, he's part of the Eidah. And Adarabah, that's what we learned about Dafka from here, where it says Eidah Hara, to say that the minyan is based on the fact that you're a Yid. That's, you become part of a minyan, regardless of what level you're on. Now, so we have 20 here, right? Because it said twice Eidah. Now, minayin lahavi oit shloisha. From where do I know that it's 23? Why another 3? Now, so the source is because mimash mashanema. I could understand from this that the pasuk says loisia achri rabim lerois. That when it comes to an argument amongst the Beit Din, whether a person is chayiv misa or not, you can't follow the majority if the majority is saying that he is chayiv misa. Meaning, in a case where it's a majority only by one person. The majority is only by one person that's saying is chayiv misa, you don't follow the majority. That's what the pasuk means to say here. Now, shemeya nisu, from this I understand she'eya imam l'tayva, that for the good, for the positive, you do follow the majority. If even only one person says that he's exempt, so you should follow them. So it's understood already from what it says in this pasuk. Now, imkain, if that's the case, why is there another pasuk where it says that you do follow the majority? Lahatais, to lean in the good, in favor of this person. It can't be referring to the fact that you follow the rabbim for something which is negative, because we just said that if there's only one in the majority, you don't follow for the negative. So achir rabbim lahatais has to be referring to following the majority only for the good. But that I could already understand from what the pasuk says. Only lerois. Lerois means only if it's the negative. So I already understand that for the positive, I will follow the majority. So why does the pasuk have to spell out specifically achir rabbim lahatais? So therefore, we learn out that actually the second pasuk is also referring to a case where you're going to be following the majority in the negative. And what it's saying is, loik hatayaschal letoiva hatayaschal lera. When you follow the majority for the positive, it's not like when you follow the majority for the negative. When you follow the majority to pata this person for the good, that's only based on the majority of one. And that's what we understand from the first pasuk, that when there's one in the majority, you don't follow to give him misa, but you will follow to save him from misa if there's only one more that says he's pater. But so then the pasuk goes on to say, so when do you follow the majority if it's for the negative, to give him misa al pishnayim? That's if it has to have a majority of at least 2 that are saying that he's chayiv misa. So from here we see that after you have the 10 that are judging him, and the 10 that are judging him negatively, you have to have at least 12 to be able to judge him, that there should be at least 2 that could be more than the 10 that judge him negatively, that there should be, or again, sorry, the opposite. If you're having 2 that are judging him, again, you're having 10 that are judging him favorably, in order to be able to have a situation where there are going to be 12, so there could be another 2, an additional, that could judge him negatively, so therefore you have to have 22. So that brings us to the number 22. Now, why 23? Ve'ein Beit Din shokol. The rule is a Beit Din cannot be an even number. Because then, what happens if the Beit Din splits? In such a case, if it's 22, it's going to split 11 and 11, so you can't come to a conclusion. You can't have a majority. So therefore, masifin alein oid echad. So we have to add one more, harekan esrim v'shloisha. So then, you're going to have 23. Okay, now the Gemara will ask on this. We just said that it's not enough to have an odd Beit Din, which will then make it possible that you'll have one more to say whether he's chayiv or potter. But that will only work for the positive, one more. But for the negative, you have to have 2. So how does that work if you have an odd Beit Din? It's still not necessarily going to be 2 more. Okay, the Gemara will explain. We'll see in the Gemara.
It's a very unusually long Mishnah.
Yeah, it is.
And not only that, but it goes into Svaras and stuff. Within the Mishnah, there's a Gemara built in already.
Yeah, Psukim and Gemara. Yeah, okay.
Is that a...
Yeah, it's not so usual, but that's, yeah. Sagt the Mishnah weiter. The Kama Yehei Be'ir V'Tehei Ru'uya L'Sanhedrin. How large does a city have to be that it deserves to have a Beit Din for it? That you have to appoint a Beit Din of 23. Meya V'Esrim. So one opinion is that you have to have a city of at least 120 people. And the Gemara will explain what's this number, 120. Rab Nechemia says, Mosayim ushloishim, that you have to have a city of 230 people. And here the Mishnah explains the reason for this. Keneged Sari Asaris, corresponding to what it says in the Psukim when you appoint authority for 10. So for 230 people, so for each 10, you have one judge. That's a judge, 23 judges. You have to have at least 10 for each judge. That's 230 people. Zok the Gemara. The Mishnah began saying that for Dinei Mamanis, all money matters, so you have 3 that judge. And then it went on to say Gzelos v'chabalos, in the case of when a person is stealing or he's wounding someone, an injury, also to judge that you have to have 3. So frag the Gemara, Otu Gzelos v'chabalos. So the case of stealing or injuring someone, Lav Dinei Mamanis Ninu, is this not Beit Din judging about a money matter? So why is it separating it from what it began and said first? Dinei Mamanis, that includes this. Amar Rabavo, so Rabavo answers, Mahein Ketani. The Mishnah is explaining what are Dinei Mamanis. It starts with saying Dinei Mamanis, and then when it says Gzelos v'chabalos, it's telling you what are the Dinei Mamanis, what is included in Dinei Mamanis. Mahein Dinei Mamanis, Gzelos v'chabalos. What is Dinei Mamanis that we say that must be 3? It's Gzelos v'chabalos. Aval, but other kinds of Dinei Mamanis. For example, Hoidois, when a person is coming and admitting in Beit Din that I owe so and so money, or v'halvois, when a person borrowed money and Beit Din has to judge to see that he has to pay or the money that he owes, so loi, that's not included in the Dinei Mamanis of the Mishnah. And the Gemara will soon explain. So what exactly? How do you judge by the case of Haidas v'halvois? If not 3, so what number is it? And now the Gemara explains. The question now comes up, so if Gzelis and Chabalis is what Dinei Mamanis is, it didn't have to say seemingly Dinei Mamanis. It could just say Gzelis or Chabalis is 3. So why is it saying both? Dinei Mamanis, and then it's saying, and what are the Dinei Mamanis? Gzelis or Chabalis. So the Gemara explains that Sriche, it was necessary for the Mishnah to say both of these points. Because the Itana Dinei Mamanis, if it would just say Dinei Mamanis is 3, so then Avamina Dafilai does Valvois. I would think that includes other kinds of money matters, including when a person is admitting or cases of loans. So Tana Gzelis v'chabalis. So the Tana spells out that what Dinei Mamanis are we talking about? Gzelis and chabalis. But on the other hand, V'itana Gzelis v'chabalis v'loi katani Dinei Mamanis. If it would say Gzelis and chabalis is what requires 3, and it would not first say that this is that starting off that this is explaining Dinei Mamanis. So Hava Mineh, I would think to say Hu Adin da Filoi Dois Valvois. That when it says Gzelis v'chabalis, maybe it's just being used as an example, and it really includes even Haidas and Alvais, should also be with 3. And the reason why it says specifically this example of Gzelis and Chabalis, because in the Torah, where it says that you have to have 3 to judge a person by Dinei Mamanis, where does it say it in the Torah? It says it regarding Gzelis and Chabalis. So therefore, the Mishnah has to spell out to say that what are these Gzelis and Chabalos has to say clearly that the Dinei Mamanis, that's what Gzelis Chabalos is, and not anything else. And the Gemara brings a source, the Chsiv, because in the pasuk it says, "V'nikrav bala abayis el ha'alakim." So over there in that pasuk, when it says that the balabayis should come to the Beit Din, what is that pasuk talking about? It's talking about a case of Gzelis. Chabalois, and so that's where we see that's Gzelos. It says in the Torah clearly that coming to a Beit Din, ha'alakim, you have to come to a proper Beit Din. So that's where the pasuk says it by Gzelos and Chabalois. And also this refers not only to stealing, but it also refers to when you injure a person, because mali chava begufay, mali chava b'mamaynai. Whether you injure a person physically or you cause him a loss by taking his money, it's the same thing. So in the pasuk, when it speaks about Elakim or Elahim coming to Beit Din, it's speaking about Gzelis v'chabalos. So if the Mishnah would only say Gzelis v'chabalos, I would say that it's an example, and the Mishnah is using this example because that's what's clear in the pasuk, but it includes other cases of Dinei Mamanis as well. Therefore, the Mishnah had to say Dinei Mamanis and then spell out what are the Dinei Mamanis, Dafke Gzelis v'chabalos. So Tana Mahin Dinei Mamanis. Therefore, the Tana of the Mishnah says, what are the Dinei Mamanis? Gzelis v'chabalos. Dafke Gzelis v'chabalos. Avol Haidois v'halvois loy. But when it comes to the other cases of Dinei Mamanis, which is Haidois and Alvois, there you do not have to have the Beit Din of 3. So now the Gemara explains, so what does that mean? by a case of Eidos Valvois, so Lamai, what's the exclusion here? We're saying that Eidos and Alvois is not like Zelas Chabolis. So what? Yes. If you're going to say that what we're saying is the Beit and Shloisha, that you don't need a Beis Din of 3 for this, but for Rabavo himself said, Shnayim Shadonu Dine Mominis, if only 2 are judging regarding a case of a money matter, which includes Eidos and Alvois, L'divrei Akail, everybody agrees that Ein Dineim Din. When 2 judge, whatever they're paskin is not a psak din at all. You have to have a Beis Din of 3. So we see even for this we need a Beis Din of 3. Elo, so we must say the pshat is the loy be'inon mumchin. That you don't have to have expert judges. What does mumchin mean? So Rashi says mumchin means those that have smicha. Smicha going back to Moshe Rabbeinu, that is. And also they have to take rishus from the nasi of the Beis Din, that they are allowed to judge and paskin a din. That's what it's saying. So for Gzelis and Chabalois, you're going to have a Beis Din of 3, but 3 mumchin. But for Eidos and Alvois, other kinds of money matters, you also need a Beis Din of 3, but not expert judges. So the Gemara asks on this, how could we make such a distinction? My Kasovar, what does the Tan of our Mishnah hold? And here the Gemara brings from what it says in the Psukim regarding the Shvuah that the Torah says by a Shomer. A Shomer that has to swear, and that the pasuk over there says that he has to be brought into a Beis Din to swear. So what does he hold about those psukim? First, let's see the words of the Gemara inside, and I'll explain what the Gemara is saying over here. Ikasavar, does he hold Irov Parshias Kostov Kan? That when the Torah there says that you have to bring the person into the Beis Din, the pasuk there is actually including 2 different parshas. When you look there in the psukim, so Rashi brings the pasuk over there says that that if a person comes and says ki huzeh, which means he's a meidav b'miktsas, he only admits the part of the claim against him. So then the pasuk goes on to say that he should swear. Now the actual parsha there is talking about a shomer. When a shomer is denying what he has in his possession, a pekodon, a deposit, and it also says meidav b'miktsas. So according to one opinion, Ir of Parshiyas Kosev Ka means that the pasuk is saying, really, it's speaking about 2 separate cases of a person that has to swear. There's the case of a shomer that has to swear for denying what he has in his possession. And then when the shomer swears, he doesn't have to be a meidav b'miktsas. Even if he denies it completely, a kaifer akoil, he's going to have to swear. But the pasuk also included in this parsha a different shvuah, which is the shvuah for a person that borrowed money. In the beginning of the parsha, there it speaks about kiyalve or kesef yalves ami. So and on that it's saying the shvuah of meidav b'miktsas. So that's what means Erev Parshiyas, that we have over here in these psukim the shvuah of the meidav b'miktsas that relates to a loan, and the shvuah of a shomer that could be even a kaifer akoil. So if you follow this opinion, that in this parsha here, it's speaking both about the shomer that's trying to steal from someone a deposit that he got, and it's also speaking about the halva that you have to swear in the case of meidav b'miktsas. So if so, liboy nami mumchen. So since it's in this parsha where we're learning out from here, that here's where the Torah says the term Elohim, which refers to a Beis Din, and we learn out from the fact that it says actually 3 times Elohim, that has to be 3, and because it says Elohim, which means a proper Beis Din of experts, so according to this opinion, this parsha actually speaks about a case of a shomer, which is attempting to steal from someone that deposit, and it's also speaking about a loive, which is attempting to, or is not paying back. So regarding both of them, it should be the same halacha that you should require to have 3 judges, and which are experts. So how can we make the distinction that we said before, that regarding a loan, you don't need expert judges? On the other hand, if we're following the opinion that says that you don't have 2 different things that are mixed into this parsha, meaning that the parsha is speaking just about a shomer. And according to this opinion, every shomer that has to swear when he's attempting to steal the deposit, he has to be a meidav b'miktsas in order to be chayiv in a shvuah. Without being a meidav b'miktsas, he does not swear. Ashi here explains that the machlokes really is, it's based on the svara of meidav b'miktsas, whether the svara of meidav b'miktsas is shayach also by a pekodon or only by alva. Okay, this is a Gemara Baba Kama, because the Gemara over there explains the reason for this difference. But over here, what's negayat to us is that according to this opinion, if there's no ir of parshiyas, that means that this pasuk is speaking only about a shomer that's trying to steal. It's not speaking about a person that's borrowing at all. So if that's the case, so then shloisha lamali. So then what's your source that for halvois, when you're judging a case of a loan, that you would need 3 judges? Where is the source for 3? From here, from the psukim here, it says 3 times the word Elohim, which refers to Beit Din. That's how you know you need 3. So Mamanashach, the Gemara is asking, if halvais is included in this pasuk, so you should need 3 expert judges, like it says in the pasuk. If it's not included in this pasuk, you shouldn't need 3 judges at all. Maybe even just 1 judge should be enough. And says the Gemara, La'olam Kasava Irav Parshi is Kasov Khan. Really, the Tana of our Mishnah holds that in this parsha it speaks about a shomer and it also speaks about a loan as well. And therefore, you should really need Ubedino de Lebay Nami Mumchen. You should really need 3 expert judges, just like for Gzelis and Chabolis. Now, V'hai Deloi Binan Mumchen. The fact that by Halvos and Haidois, money matters, there's an exception that you don't need 3 expert judges. Mishom de Rab Chanina. It's because of what Rab Chanina said. Rab Chanina said, Devar Teire, that Minat Teire, Echad Dine Mamanis, both when it comes to witnesses that are testifying about a money matter, and Ve'echad Dine Nefashis, and when witnesses are coming and testifying about a matter that to give a person the punishment of death, B'drishu B'chakira, Eidim always have to be properly and thoroughly interrogated. A lot of different halachas about this interrogation that we're going to learn later in the Masechta. Now, Shanema, the pasuk says, Mishpat echad yilachem, that there's one halacha that applies to both, whether you're interrogating Eidim for money matters or for dinin nefashis, the same thing. So why is it that when Eidim come and testify regarding money matters, we don't apply the same level, we don't do the same drisha v'chakira regarding these witnesses, like we do when it comes to interrogating Eidim that want to say that someone is chayiv misa? The reason is in order not to lock the door in front of people that want to borrow money. If a lender knows that if I'm lending someone money, and then I'm going to bring Eidim that this person owes me money, the Eidim are going to have to go through a rigorous interrogation process, and they may make a mistake in their testimony, and they may forget something. Then their Eidus will be thrown out, and I won't be able to prove that he owes me money. Who's going to want to lend anybody money? So therefore, the Chachamim said that we don't interrogate Eidim when it comes to money matters. So the same thing the Gemara now is saying, that if a person would know that if in order for him to be able to collect money from someone, he has to have a bezdin of mumchen dafke, so then to go through the hassle to find the proper bezdin of mumchen to collect money of a loan, he's not going to want to lend anyone money. So therefore Chachamim said you can find any 3 adyatim, any 3 people that can come and judge to collect money. All right, so this is the Rishonim over here say that even though in the pasuk it says Elohim, and according to this opinion, Irav Parshi is Kasov Khan, the pasuk is speaking about a loan and is saying that you do need 3 expert judges, but nevertheless Chachamim uprooted that. Some Rishonim say that this is a kayach of hefker, bezdin hefker. Chachamim have the kayach to uproot that. Others say it's mashma from Taisvis that the hadyatim are like shluchim of the bezdin mumchen, that they are appointed that anybody can come and judge when it comes to money matters, in order that people should want to lend money. Let's just finish off one more point there. So the Gemara asks, if that's the case, Ela Mayato, if any people, Chachamim allowed them to judge regarding money matters, if so, Ta'u, in a case where they made a mistake in their judgment, even these plain people that made a mistake, Lo Yishalmu, they should not have to pay for their mistake. And the reason for this is, the Gemara later says, we'll see, that in a case where you have a bezdin that's appointed, that's a proper bezdin, that we allow them to be a bezdin, when they make a mistake in their judgment, they don't have to pay for their mistake. We'll see the details about this later. So over here, now that you're saying that these adyatais are allowed to go and judge as well, so if so, they shouldn't have to pay for their mistake either. But later though, the Gemara learns out and says that plain people that make a mistake in a judgment of money, they will have to pay for their mistake. But why do they have to pay if they're appointed or they're allowed to do this? And says the Gemara, no, of course they have to pay for that mistake for the very same reason we just said. Because because if you're going to say that they don't have to pay for that mistake, definitely a lender is going to think twice before he lends someone money. Because he's going to say, well, then we're going to come to a bezdin, and it's going to be a bezdin of adyatis. They may not judge properly, and that bezdin of adyatis is not going to take responsibility for this, and I may not ever get my loan paid up. So therefore, they have to take responsibility for their mistake. It's all in order to motivate a person to want to lend money to people.